The crystalline spires of Helios 7 space station cast prismatic shadows across Marcus Reeves's office as he studied the latest energy consumption reports. The station's quantum core was failing faster than predicted, threatening the delicate alliance between humans and the Nixians. Running his fingers through his graying temples, he wondered if accepting the diplomatic posting here had been a mistake. A gentle chime announced a visitor. "Enter," Marcus called, not looking up from his holographic displays. The door whispered open, and a soft luminescence filled the room. Marcus raised his eyes to find himself facing a Nixian woman whose crystalline skin refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. Her name was Niara, the station's youngest quantum engineer. "Ambassador Reeves," she said, her voice carrying the melodic resonance characteristic of her species. "The core's degradation has accelerated. We need solutions, not more meetings." Marcus smiled despite himself. Most Nixians approached humans with careful formality, but Niara had never hidden her directness. "Show me," he said, gesturing to the empty chair across his desk. Niara moved with fluid grace, her crystalline form catching and splitting light into rainbow patterns across the walls. She projected a complex diagram of the station's quantum core. "The harmonics are destabilizing. Without a new integration protocol, we have weeks, not months." Marcus studied the projection, noting the intricate dance of energy patterns. "The Council won't approve experimental modifications to the core. Too risky, they'll say." "Then they doom us all to failure," Niara replied, her skin flickering with frustrated colors. "Human technology alone cannot sustain the core, and our traditional methods are insufficient for this hybrid system." Their eyes met across the desk. Marcus had learned to read Nixian expressions over his years of service, but Niara was different. Her emotions played across her crystalline surface like aurora borealis, impossible to hide and breathtaking to witness. "You have a proposal," he said. It wasn't a question. Niara's surface rippled with determination. "I can synchronize the core with Nixian quantum harmonics, but it requires direct neural interface. My people consider it intimate. Sacred." Marcus leaned back, understanding the weight of her offer. Nixians regarded their quantum connection abilities as deeply personal, shared only with family and bondmates. "The Council will never approve. They don't need to know until it works," Niara countered, leaning forward. Her proximity sent strange warmths through Marcus's chest. "I trust you, Ambassador. Do you trust me?" The question hung between them like starlight. Marcus studied her, seeing not just the brilliant engineer but something more, a kindred spirit who understood that progress required risk, that barriers were meant to be crossed. "Show me everything," he said finally. "If we're going to break protocols, we better be thorough about it." They worked through the station's night cycle, Niara explaining the intricacies of Nixian quantum harmonics while Marcus detailed the political ramifications they'd need to navigate. Hours blurred together, marked only by the shifting patterns of light across Niara's skin and the growing sense that something profound was changing between them. As the station's artificial dawn approached, Niara demonstrated a small-scale harmonic alignment. Her crystalline hands curved around a quantum crystal, her surface pulsing with concentrated energy. The crystal began to sing, emitting pure notes that made Marcus's heart race. "Beautiful," he whispered, not quite meaning the demonstration. Niara's surface flickered with colors he'd never seen before. "Humans are fascinating," she said softly. "You feel so much, yet hide it all behind flesh and protocol." "Not all of us," Marcus replied, suddenly aware of how close they'd drawn together. A warning chime interrupted the moment. Primary shift was beginning, and with it would come the scrutiny they'd been avoiding. Niara stood, her form catching the first rays of artificial dawn. "Tomorrow," she said, "I'll begin the core integration. Will you watch over the process?" Marcus nodded, knowing he was agreeing to more than just technical supervision. "I'll be there." "But Niara, be careful. The Council." "The Council sees only politics," she interrupted. "I see possibility." She paused at the door, her surface rippling with complex emotions. And so do you, Marcus Reeves. That's why I chose you. She left him alone with his thoughts and the lingering sparkle of her presence. Marcus turned to the window, watching the station's massive arms rotating against the star-filled backdrop of space. Somewhere in the darkness, solutions and dangers awaited them both. But for now, all he could think about was the way starlight danced across crystalline skin, and how protocol seemed a small price to pay for witnessing wonders. The quantum core hummed with newfound stability, but Marcus Reeves's office felt emptier than ever. 3 months had passed since Niara's departure for the crystalline convergence, her people's sacred journey through the quantum realms. Her last words still echoed in his thoughts. "Keep this," she had said, pressing a shard of living crystal into his palm. "It carries my quantum signature. When it sings, you'll know I'm thinking of you." Now, as he held the crystal in the dim light of his office, its soft purple glow pulsed like a distant heartbeat. The success of their core stabilization project had earned them accolades, but also unwanted attention from both species authorities. "Ambassador Reeves," his comm system chimed. "Priority message from Earth Central." Marcus tucked the crystal into his chest pocket. Display. Admiral Thorne's weathered face materialized in the air. "The attacks on joint human-Nixian facilities have escalated. 3 research stations hit in the past week. The Council is pointing fingers at radical Nixian separatists." "That's convenient timing," Marcus muttered. "Right when our cooperation is proving most successful." "Watch yourself, Marcus. Your close work with the Nixian engineer raised eyebrows. Some suggest you've been compromised." The crystal against Marcus's chest grew warm. "The core stabilization saved Helios 7. Without Niara's intervention." "That's exactly the kind of statement that concerns them," Thorne interrupted. "Using her given name, defending their methods. Remember where your loyalties lie." After the Admiral's image faded, Marcus touched the crystal, remembering how Niara's skin had flickered with rainbow hues when she'd given it to him. The warmth spread through his chest, and for a moment, he could almost hear her melodic voice. A security alert jolted him from his reverie. In the station's diplomatic quarter, someone had breached the quantum archives. Marcus rushed to the scene, his heart pounding when he saw the crystalline shards scattered across the floor, remnants of a Nixian guard. "Life signs are stable," the medical officer reported. "But she's in quantum shock." Before losing consciousness, she mentioned a shadow that moved like water. Marcus knelt beside the fallen guard, noting the unusual pattern of her surface fractures. These weren't caused by conventional weapons. "This is quantum resonance damage." "Sir," a junior officer called from the archive entrance. The intruder only accessed one file, all records regarding the core stabilization project. The crystal in Marcus's pocket grew cold. He remembered Niara's warnings about those who would rather see their peoples divided. Had she known this was coming? That night, unable to sleep, Marcus stood at his office window. The station's quantum core pulsed with the stable rhythm Niara had given it, each beat a reminder of what cooperation between their species could achieve. The crystal shard sang softly against his chest, its song both comfort and warning. A shadow moved in the reflected starlight. Marcus spun, reaching for his emergency beacon, but stopped short. There, in his office, stood a figure that seemed made of liquid darkness. "Ambassador Reeves," the figure spoke, its voice like grinding crystal. "You've been asking questions about the attacks. Who are you?" "Someone who knows the truth about your Nixian friend." The figure shifted, revealing hints of crystalline structure beneath its fluid surface. "She's not what you think. Her kind, the quantum dancers, they're considered dangerous even among their own people." Marcus's hand tightened around Niara's crystal. "You're the one behind the attacks. We're preserving the natural order. Humans and Nixians were never meant to share quantum technology. What she did to the core, it's an abomination. The core is stable. It's saving lives." The figure laughed, a sound like breaking glass. For now. But quantum harmonics are delicate. One wrong resonance. It raised a shadowy hand, and Marcus felt the crystal in his pocket vibrate discordantly. Acting on instinct, Marcus pulled out the crystal. It blazed with sudden light, and the shadow creature recoiled. For a brief moment, Marcus felt Niara's presence, as if she stood beside him, her quantum energy flowing through the crystal. The intruder dissolved into darkness, leaving behind only a whispered threat, "She'll return to find everything she built in ruins." Marcus immediately initiated station-wide security protocols, but his mind was on the crystal that still pulsed with warm light. Somewhere in the quantum realms, Niara was facing her own trials. He had to ensure there was still a future for them to return to. In the days that followed, Marcus dove deep into classified records, tracking quantum technology theft across the sector. Each attack followed a pattern: destabilize cooperation, create fear, force isolation. But why? What were they afraid of? The crystals sang more frequently now, its pulses forming patterns he was learning to read. Danger, it seemed to say. Preparation. Return. Or perhaps that was just his hope speaking. As he studied the station's security feeds late one night, a message arrived, encoded in quantum harmonics that made the crystal resonate. The shadows are growing. Keep our light safe. I'm coming home sooner than planned. Marcus touched the crystal, its warmth matching the hope and fear in his heart. Hurry, Niara, he whispered to the stars. There's a storm coming. The quantum alert klaxons shattered the artificial night of Helios, 7. Marcus rushed to the control center, his heart racing as he read the incoming data. An unregistered ship was breaching the station's defensive perimeter, its energy signature unlike anything in their database. "Sir," Lieutenant Reed called out, "it's not responding to hails, but it's emitting quantum harmonics that match our core's frequency." The crystal against Marcus's chest sang with sudden warmth. After 8 years of waiting, he knew before the ship came into view. "Clear them for emergency docking." Bay 17. "Sir. Protocol requires." Bay 17, Marcus repeated, already moving toward the lifts. Now. The docking bay's massive doors were still cycling closed when he arrived. Through the observation window, he saw a vessel that seemed carved from living crystal, its surface rippling with familiar patterns of light. The airlock cycled, and there she was. Niara emerged from her ship like a star stepping out of space. Her crystalline form had grown more complex, new facets and patterns etched into her surface that spoke of experiences Marcus could only imagine. But her light, that inner radiance he'd dreamed about for 8 years, burned brighter than ever. "Your security protocols are still inadequate," she said by way of greeting, her voice carrying the same melodic quality he remembered, now layered with new harmonics. 3 different ways I could have breached them." Marcus smiled despite himself. "Most visitors don't arrive in quantum ships that can rewrite our detection algorithms. Most visitors aren't coming to prevent a war." Her surface rippled with urgent patterns. "The shadows have spread, Marcus. What they did here was just the beginning." Before he could respond, security teams burst into the bay, weapons raised. Leading them was Commissioner Drace, the Council's latest attempt to supervise Marcus's command. Ambassador Reeves, Drace's voice dripped with false concern, consorting with unauthorized Nixian visitors. How disappointing. Niara turned to face the Commissioner, her form straightening with diplomatic poise Marcus had never seen in her before. "I am Niara VH Saren, Quantum Archon of the Third Resonance. My credentials were transmitted to your systems 3 microseconds before my arrival." Drace's smile faltered as his comm unit confirmed her status. Quantum Archon, one of the highest positions in Nixian society. The young engineer Marcus had known had indeed traveled far. "The Council will still want to review," Drace began. "The Council," Niara interrupted, her tone crystalline sharp, "is precisely why I'm here. Shall we discuss the shadow agents they've been ignoring?" Or perhaps the quantum void weapons being developed in direct violation of the harmonic accords? The security team shifted uncomfortably. Marcus felt the crystal against his chest pulse in time with Niara's growing agitation. "My office," he said quickly. "Commissioner, you're welcome to join us after you've properly processed the Archon's credentials." Minutes later, alone in his office, Marcus watched Niara examine the crystal she'd given him, her fingers tracing its still glowing surface. "You kept it close," she said softly. "It saved my life. That night with the shadow creature, was that really you I felt?" Her surface shimmered with complex emotions. "The convergence taught me to project my quantum consciousness across space. I couldn't come back, but I could reach out through our connection. Every time the crystal sang. I knew," Marcus finished. "Somehow, I knew it was you." Niara's form stilled, her light focusing entirely on him. "You look tired, Marcus. Fighting shadows alone takes its toll." "Not alone. Your warning helped us track their movements. But we're missing something crucial. The attacks are increasing, but they feel like a distraction." "They are." Niara produced a complex crystalline matrix from her ship's data core. "Look at the quantum variance patterns. The shadows aren't trying to destroy cooperation between our peoples, they're trying to prevent something specific from emerging." The holographic display filled with interweaving lines of force, human technology and Nixian quantum harmonics blending into something new. Something beautiful. Something that looked remarkably like the core, Marcus breathed. "What you did here, it wasn't just a repair, was it?" Niara's surface blazed with pride and worry. "It was the first step toward true synthesis. Human innovation and Nixian quantum arts, growing together into something greater than either. The shadows serve those who profit from keeping our peoples dependent on separate technologies. And now you're back to finish what we started." It wasn't a question. "No, Marcus." Her light pulsed warmly. "I'm back because what we started was never just about technology. The shadows fear connection, all forms of it." The crystal hummed between them, its song stronger than ever. Marcus reached out, his fingers nearly touching her crystalline surface. "Niara." The office lights suddenly dimmed, emergency power indicators flashing red. From the speakers, Lieutenant Reed's voice carried barely controlled panic. "Ambassador. The core, something's affecting its quantum harmony. It's like that night 8 years ago, but worse. Sir, it's calling for the Archon by name." Niara's surface flared with alarm. "They followed me. The shadows knew I'd come here first." She turned to Marcus, her light pulsing with determination. "Are you ready to break some more protocols?" Marcus grabbed his emergency kit, the crystal singing against his heart. "With you? Always." The path to the quantum core was littered with crystalline shards, remnants of Nixian security barriers shattered by shadow energy. Marcus and Niara moved swiftly through the darkened corridors, her natural luminescence lighting their way. "The shadows are stronger," Niara observed, her surface rippling with concern. "They've learned to harmonize their void energy with quantum frequencies." A dark figure materialized ahead, its fluid form absorbing the emergency lights. "The Archon returns to her failed experiment," it hissed. "We warned you about crossing boundaries." Marcus raised the quantum resonator he'd been developing since their first shadow encounter, but Niara stepped forward, her form blazing with newfound power. "You speak of boundaries," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the station's walls vibrate, "but fear the bridges." The shadow attacked, void energy tentacles whipping through the air. Niara met them with quantum shields, her light fragmenting the darkness. Marcus fired the resonator, its frequency matched to the crystal he still carried. The combination of human technology and Nixian quantum arts created a devastating wave that dispersed the shadow creature. But more were coming. "They're trying to keep us from the core," Marcus realized. "Whatever they're planning is already in motion," Niara finished. Her surface patterns shifted to match the crystal's pulse. Marcus, what we did 8 years ago, it wasn't just cooperation. The core adapted, evolved. It's becoming a blueprint for true synthesis. They reached the core chamber to find Commissioner Drace already there, surrounded by shadow creatures that seemed to defer to him. The quantum core's usual bright harmony had turned dark and discordant. I wondered how long it would take you to figure it out, Drace smiled. The shadows aren't the enemy, Ambassador. They're the cure. Humanity can't afford to become dependent on Nixian quantum arts. Better to shut it all down now. Look at your sensors, Niara challenged. The core isn't just supporting the station anymore. It's teaching both our technologies to work together. To grow. Exactly the problem. Drace nodded to the shadows. Shut it down. Permanently. The shadow creatures poured their void energy into the core. Alarms blared as systems began to fail across the station. But something unexpected happened. The crystal in Marcus's pocket blazed with brilliant light, resonating with Niara's quantum signature. It remembers, she whispered. Then, louder, Marcus, the crystal. It holds the original harmony pattern. If we combine it with your resonator, it might restart the core's evolution, he finished, understanding dawning. But the power required, it would take both of us. Niara's surface rippled with emotion. It always did. Together, they moved to the core's control interface. Niara placed her hands on the quantum-focusing crystals while Marcus connected his resonator to the human-built systems. The crystal between them pulsed with 8 years of stored connection. You'll both die, Drace warned. Humans can't channel quantum energy directly. Watch us, Marcus replied, and took Niara's crystal in hand. The surge of power was unlike anything he'd ever felt. Niara's quantum energy flowed through him, harmonizing with his own bioelectric field. The crystal's song became a symphony, drowning out the shadow's void frequency. The core responded, its light returning stronger than ever. New patterns emerged in its quantum matrix, patterns that looked like DNA spirals meeting crystalline lattices, like two different forms of life learning to dance together. The shadow creatures screamed as their void energy was converted, transformed by the new harmony into something that could exist in the light. Drace reached for his weapon, but found himself entranced by the core's evolution. When it was over, Marcus felt forever changed. Looking at his hands, he saw traces of crystalline light dancing beneath his skin. Niara's surface showed new patterns that rippled like human heartbeats. What did we just do? He asked softly. Niara's light pulsed with joy and wonder. We proved them wrong. About everything. The Great Hall of Harmonies on Helios 7 had never hosted such an gathering. Representatives from Earth and Nyx Prime sat side by side, their attention fixed on the quantum core's display screen. 3 months had passed since the night of transformation, and everything had changed. Marcus stood at the podium, the crystalline traces beneath his skin catching the light. Beside him, Niara's surface rippled with the steady rhythm of a human heartbeat. They had become living proof of what their peoples could achieve together. The quantum core's evolution continues, Marcus addressed the assembly. What we once thought were incompatible technologies have shown us a new path. One that transforms both human and Nixian science into something greater than the sum of its parts. Niara stepped forward, her light harmonizing with the core's display. The shadow agents sought to prevent this future, fearing the loss of their power. But they proved our point instead, even void energy can be transformed when we dare to bridge the gap between our peoples. Former Commissioner Drace, now a key witness in the investigation of shadow sympathizers, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The evidence of conspiracy had reached the highest levels of both governments, exposing those who profited from keeping their species divided. But the core's transformation showed us something else, Niara continued, her surface brightening as she turned to Marcus. It showed us that evolution requires courage. The courage to reach across boundaries. To take another's hand and step into the unknown. Marcus felt the crystal against his chest pulse in time with Niara's light. The changes they'd undergone that night hadn't faded, instead, they'd deepened. Human cellular structure learning to channel quantum energy. Nixian crystalline patterns adopting organic flexibility. "We stand before you not just as diplomatic partners," Marcus said, his voice carrying new harmonics that made the crystal matrices in the walls sing. "We are living proof that our differences are not barriers, but bridges waiting to be built." The declaration caused a stir in the assembly. It was one thing to accept technological cooperation, but this was unprecedented. A human carrying quantum light. A Nixian resonating with organic rhythms. And between them, something entirely new. Admiral Thorne stood first, his weathered face showing a hint of a smile. The Defense Council votes in favor of the Quantum Integration Protocol. One by one, other human representatives stood. The Nixian quantum consensus followed, their crystalline forms lighting up in sequential harmony. "The Convergence recognizes this evolution as true and natural," their speaker announced. "The barriers between our peoples serve no purpose but fear." As the votes were recorded and the assembly erupted in discussion, Marcus and Niara slipped away to their favorite observation deck. The station's arms rotated against the star-filled backdrop, but they had eyes only for each other. 8 years ago, Marcus said softly, "You left to grow, to become who you needed to be. I never imagined that we'd both need to evolve." Niara's surface shimmered with affection. "The shadows were right about one thing, crossing boundaries changes you. They just didn't understand that change can be beautiful." Marcus reached out, his quantum-touched fingers meeting her crystalline surface. Where they touched, light and energy danced together in perfect harmony. The crystal between them sang with joy, its song now a permanent part of both their beings. "The Council will want to study us," he mused. "The first of our kind. A blueprint for future integration. Let them study." Niara's light pulsed with mischief. "We'll be too busy building bridges. Between stars?" Marcus smiled. "Between hearts," she corrected, her form moving closer. "Always between hearts." Above them, the quantum core pulsed with new patterns of possibility. Human innovation and Nixian quantum arts, woven together like the light that now lived in Marcus's cells and the organic rhythms that danced through Niara's crystalline form. They had become living proof that love doesn't just cross boundaries, it dissolves them, creating something new and wonderful in their place. The crystal that had carried their connection through 8 years of separation now sang a new song. Not of longing or distance, but of harmony found. Of barriers transformed into bridges. Of two different forms of light learning to dance as one. In the end, that's what their story became, not just in the official records of first successful human-Nixian integration, but in the legends that would be told on both their worlds. A tale of how love, when given room to grow and courage to evolve, can transform not just two hearts, but entire civilizations. The shadows had feared change, but change came anyway. In the light of twin stars, watched over by a quantum core that pulsed with new possibilities, two beings who had dared to cross every boundary held each other and smiled. They had become the future they'd dreamed of. And it was more beautiful than either of them had imagined.